Yeah, so thank you for doing it, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, no worries.
Yeah, so how did your music journey start?
Ooh, it's an interesting one. Well, my mom always says that I came out singing. So, singing wise, I've been doing this now for like, let's say 27 years. And writing specifically music, I would say is actually kind of a recent thing, well, recent-ish. Since the pandemic, really, I started writing songs because, like everyone, I had time on my hands to finally do it. And I was like, if I don't do it now, probably will never find the time to do it. I'll come up with an excuse not to do it. And yeah, so originally I'm from the Netherlands. I'm from Amsterdam, and I started writing songs there. And then 4 years ago, I moved to the UK, and I'm now based in London. And I just figured when I moved to London 3 years ago, if I don't do it now, then again, I will never do it. So I really only started my career like seriously 3 years ago, and it's been an interesting one for sure. But yeah, I couldn't be happier to kind of force myself for doing that. So
It's a big
yeah.
jump to make, ain't it, going to London from Holland?
Well, thank God I've been before. So it wasn't before I moved to London, I lived in Scotland for a year for my
Oh,
master's. And that was a bigger jump in a sense because I've never been to Scotland. I used to live in Glasgow, never been to Glasgow.
how did you get on with the accent?
Funnily enough, I remember I kind of started watching videos about of the accent before I left, and then I moved in the first 2 weeks. I was so afraid to talk to anyone because I was just afraid that I just couldn't understand them and wouldn't be able to speak back to them. But actually, after 2 to 3 weeks, I just got used to it, and then
Yeah.
a couple of months later in the pub, after a few pints, some friends came up to me and they were like, "Do you know it? You have a Scottish accent right now." And I was like, "No way!" So maybe that's I don't know. I haven't been to Scotland actually in a long time, but I'm sure if I go back, then I will pick up the accent again.
Yeah, I stayed up in Glasgow for a bit, and Aberdeen. I really liked up there. It was good.
Oh, nice! I've never been, but I heard good stories about it.
Yeah, it was good. I was listening to your music like today, so it's good. It's quite good Sunday listening. It's quite nice and chilled.
Right?
It was
Especially the
good.
last
I seemed like your songs sort of like touch a bit on vulnerability and stuff and like acceptance. Is that how you normally do it, or do you always go for like a personal sort of writing point, or do you?
Um, yeah, definitely personal. I feel that's the easiest thing to do it, at least for me. I've tried in the past to do more like character kind of songs, but I feel it's just really hard. It's just easier just to write about my own stuff. And yeah, like all my songs are super personal, one more than the other, of about different topics, of course. Um, I try not to write too much about heartbreak because I feel, especially as women, we have so much more to write about. And it's kind of cliche of like women who write like Taylor Swift, like a million love songs and that kind of thing. But yeah, my latest song, Fine, is really about the longing for the carefree days that you had when you were a kid, where you could just do whatever on a
Yeah,
Sunday or after school. And also about like that even though you feel like you're doing okay, maybe not the thing that you really want to do, but that's okay because you know what? One day you'll figure it out and you'll be fine. So that's like the main message of the song that, you know what? Maybe not ideal now, but you'll be fine because you've done it before. So don't worry about it. And that's fun because it was the first time I did a co-write with a friend of mine, Izzy Grace. They're amazing indie artists themselves as well. And it was just really fun to write it with a friend. And it's all, for me personally, it's also kind of feels like a friendship anthem because we did it together. We recorded some social media bits together. And because it's such like a cheery song, it's almost like, oh yeah, this is nice, you know?
yeah. Do you ever find, see when you write songs like that, do you ever find anything difficult to share, or do you just lay it out?
Well, of course, the Dutch are known for being blunt, and I do count myself one of those. Um, Oh, that's interesting. Well, it's funny you're saying that because I'm actually writing at the moment for next year. and I started writing more about relationships within my family, who aren't necessarily actually my story or my, well, they are still from my perspective, but they're not necessarily all about me. And I started, for example, writing songs about my parents, and I'm thinking about writing songs about the town that I grew up in. So actually in the midst of that at the moment. And it is tricky sometimes because I try not to think about, oh, what are other people gonna think? Or, oh, do I have to ask permission of my parents to like write these things that are kind of about them, but again, still from my perspective. So far I haven't asked them yet because so many people like co-writers or fellow indie artists told me not to because it will kind of stop your process. So we'll find out when I play these songs for my parents to see what they're gonna
See
say.
how they react.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it is that, and if someone said to you no, then it maybe play on your mind a bit that you
Yeah.
wouldn't go into it, man. Yeah, I get that. Do you see we're moving from Holland to London? Did that sort of change your style of writing and stuff as well, or did you sort of just stay the same?
I think because it was so I basically I always wanted to move to London since I was a little girl, but then I graduated from like a conservatoire in Amsterdam in the midst of the pandemic, so it was really hard for me to move, and then Brexit hit. So it was really tricky for me to get there. Um and I think because I just started writing in the pandemic, and then literally like half a year later, a year later, I moved to Scotland. So I think it was still very fresh to me. Well, I have to say that not even just London, but the UK itself really inspired me because your musical landscape is way more varied than ours.
Yeah.
Um, so that was for me, and especially I grew up with listening to country music, folky kind of stuff. Then, of course, being in Scotland, where you have loads of Celtic and like rootsy kind and folk music, that was for me such an eye opener that that was like normal for people to listen on the radio, or they would play that at the pub and stuff because we would never do that. So I think again, me being in the UK just massively inspired me and kind of gave me the space to explore. Also because I've met so many people in the last 4 years that are literally from all over. I did in Scotland. The reason why I moved to Scotland is because I did a master's there at a conservatoire, basically to get into the country after Brexit, if I'm really honest. But hey, it worked. So basically, I met people from all over the world, like from China, from America, from Spain, from Germany. And for me, that was the most eye-opening thing. And that kind of continued, especially when I moved to London, because nobody is really from London. Although I've been meeting more and more people from London, so that's interesting. But there are just so many different influences because everyone's from a different place. And I think now, also now that country music is more embraced by mainstream like culture, it's easier for me to continue that exploration and to almost be like open and proud to say I love country music because when I listened to that like 10 years ago, nobody wanted to admit that, at least not in the Netherlands.
Yeah, there was a bit of a stigma over country music, but it's got popular again, hasn't
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
it?
But I'm happy about it because it's my genre and it's the genre that I make my music in or trying to get closer to. And I just love listening to country music.
Do you think you'll ever try other genres as well, or do you think you'll just stick to sort of Americana and folk and country?
Well, funnily enough, I tried loads of, if you look at my discovery, it's kind of funny because I basically the first song I ever released was like a pop song called WTF. And from there, I went to like indie rock. I did indie alternative. I did like electro pop, back to pop again. So the last 2 years, while I was making my EP, my debut EP came out in May this year. And while making that, which almost took me like 2 years, I basically found my sound, which I call indie Americana. So I think I'm good for now, although I feel that my stuff is still very much indie, and I'm trying at the moment to get closer to a more like country Americana sound. But still, I still want to make sure that's interesting and unique and not just a copy paste kind of thing. So I think for now, that's my the main thing that I'm focusing on. But never say never, you know. Maybe if I'm done exploring in 5 years within the Americana country genre. I wouldn't mind maybe. Ooh, what should I do then? Maybe jazz.
Oh
I
wow,
grew up
jazz.
with a mom that I grew up musically in a very weird household because I listened to country music. My mom listened to jazz like Ella Fitzgerald and stuff, and my dad was a massive U2 Kings of Leon fan.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
it's quite an interesting mix. So I think. And my voice is quite low. I quite a range. So I think it will be interesting maybe to, I don't know, make some experimental jazz or maybe go back to like big band stuff. I used to sing a lot with like big bands and orchestras back in the day. So I would love to do that again.
It's good to test yourself as well with something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I just love to do new things anyway. I think that's why it took me so long to just stick to one genre, at least for now, because I'm like, oh, I love this and I love that, and why not try this? And I just love playing live with as many musicians as I can. We did for one of the songs of the EP, which was a Dutch song, actually, fully in Dutch. We recorded some strings and brass instruments in New York with a friend of mine. And just being in one space with so many different instruments, just even think about it now, it gives me chills again. It was such a magical moment. And it was a shame that I was in a separate booth, like away from them recording my vocal while they were in the other room. But just the sound and just the warmth of all those instruments. Like if I had the budget, I would do that any day, any possibility. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Do you write your songs, your live performances you talked about? Do you write your songs taking your live performance in mind, or does that just come later on once you've written once you've done your song?
I've only had that actually with one song. And actually, to be honest, that wasn't really in the writing process, but it was in the producing process. I did this song, which is also on my EP, called Is it I Know? Yeah, I Know. And I recorded that with a producer, an amazing producer in Newcastle, a female producer. And I remember being in the studio, we were just like doing whatever, and then all of a sudden I had this idea of layering multiple vocals over each other as some sort of a choir. And then all of a sudden, like, we're just like doing all these weird like ad-libs and vocals and whatever. And then we listened to it because produced put it all like together, nice and tight. And then we listened to it, and I was like, oh my God, I want to see this live. I want to do this live, and I just can't wait to do it live. And when I came up with that, because most of the time I just go to a studio, you send the song in advance. The producer maybe has like a bass line or drum line that they already created, and then you literally start from scratch. And I'm not a musical genius. Like I play four chords on my guitar and that's it. And the rest I just sing. So if I want a bass line, I just hum a line, the producer plays it, and that's basically how it goes. So I remember for the bridge of that song for I Know, I was like, oh, maybe if we layer all these vocals, that could be really cool live, and then the audience can sing along to it. Um, and we played a couple of times live now with a track because most people in my band don't want to do backing vocals. I have to force them actually to do that, but I didn't want to. Like, I'm a super chill person, so whenever I'm like, okay, if you want to do BVs, then that would be great. But if you don't, that's kind of also fine with me because I don't want to force you to do something you don't want to do. I'm very chill when it comes to that. But we did it with a track and it worked really well. And it was just fun because I could see people like humming along to it and starting to like, not dancing, but a bit like, okay, okay. Nice. So I can't wait till we like play maybe down the line, play bigger venues and people actually sing along to it. I can't wait to do the whole like, when you do it like a cappella and the artist
Yeah.
is like singing it and then the audience will copy it. I can't wait for that. Maybe I already have to do it.
See it.
Um,
It must be a
yeah.
great feeling when you start seeing people reacting to your songs as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun. We did my first headline show for the release of my EP in May, and it was so interesting to see what people would react to because the EP was just out. We only released two songs beforehand. And interestingly enough, it was the Dutch song that loads of people resonated with, which is interesting because, of course, this is like a crowd full of British people, minus my parents. Those were the only like non-UK people in the room. And I was just like, that's so interesting. Um,
What's the
so
Dutch
yeah,
song called? What's
it's called Het laatste hoofdstuk, which means the last chapter.
that's cool. Is it on Spotify or is it?
Yeah, it's on
Yeah, I'll
Spotify.
listen
It's
to
like
that.
it's like, well, if you listen to it, like I mentioned earlier, it's like all the strings are there. It's a very like epic song. And I wrote it like 4 years ago, and then I was making the EP, and we're kind of coming to an end because I already decided one of 5 songs on the EP. And then I was like, oh shit, I have this song that I really love, and I tried to translate it, but it didn't really translate well. And then I was like, why don't I just record it fully in Dutch and make it kind of my thing that from now on, that each EP or album that I release, the last song will be fully in Dutch. And then we do something special with it, like those extra strings and stuff, so that people who don't understand the Dutch language can still follow it, the storyline, because of the instrumentation. Um, but it's so fun because I still hear people, especially Dutch people, are very pleased with it. Because I don't know why, but we really like it when it was the same actually when Dua Lipa came to Amsterdam with her like big show. And then she does like all these covers of artists from different countries. And she sang actually a song in Dutch, one of her most famous songs, because apparently she has like Dutch friends, like family friends. So she spoke a little bit of Dutch. And it sounds actually quite all right. I was surprised because it's quite a hard language, especially to sing in, let alone speak. Um, but I just feel that Dutch people really love it, that if you're doing or singing mainly in English and then you go back to Dutch, people really appreciate that.
Yeah,
I'm not convinced, but I feel for one song every EP album, it will be fine.
it's a
But
good idea.
it's just for me, it's the best way to go back to it because it's of course nowadays it's really like hip to do like half Spanish, half English. I don't know, half Korean, half English. But I feel with Dutch it just doesn't work. It will
Yeah, the
sound
Spanish and the Koreans have had that boom
yeah.
period, didn't they? So it's like it's quite popular now. You need to be the Dutch pioneer.
Yeah, well, people tried it and and like desperately failed at it. So I'm not gonna touch
Yes.
Although I have been thinking, but I will actually discuss this maybe with some of my Dutch peers who also make country music back home. I've been thinking about Dutch country music a lot lately because it's not there yet. It's not out there, or maybe secretly. I'm not sure if it will work, but I'm intrigued. There's something in me that's like,
Yeah, we'll have to
I
go.
want to try it because it's, I don't know, it intrigues the idea because it's funny, I hear a lot because, of course, in the UK now, Americana and country music is quite booming. The industry is definitely bigger here than in the Netherlands. It was one of the reasons why I moved. Um, but it's funny because I've heard English people say like, "Oh yeah, but we can't really sing about country roads or fields of blah 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 because we don't really have that," which I disagree with. But I think that's maybe why it hasn't happened yet in the Netherlands, like Dutch country music, because we are like, oh, we don't have fields and we don't have that, which is untrue because we do. We have
Yeah.
actually like, a huge like farming community, especially in the east of the country, and that's actually, funnily enough, where country music is biggest
Oh,
in the
really?
Netherlands. All the
So you
festivals.
relate. You relate to it, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, so. I don't know. I'm intrigued. I will like bring it up with some of my peers and then see how they feel about it, or if they maybe know if anyone has already tried it. Because to be honest, I haven't been really following the scene back home because I'm so focused on getting my career off the ground here. So who knows? Maybe one
Yeah,
day.
it is. Who's been sort of your biggest influences with your music?
Ooh. Oh, easy. That's definitely Casey Musgraves. Casey Musgraves, but also Stevie Nicks. I'm obsessed with Fleetwood Mac. Like I can listen to that any time of day. There's this amazing artist called Margot Price. She's actually for now, for this new era, my main inspiration, but I also really love the band. If I have to look at like modern like references, like I said, Casey Musgraves, Maren Morris, Maggie Rogers, um, but mainly older. I actually, funnily enough, I did name a few artists that are more like recent, but I actually most of the time, like the other day, I listened to like Steely Dan on the tube.
Yeah,
That's
Stevie Delegate.
mainly old stuff, I would say, like 70s, 80s stuff. I don't know why.
Always,
It's a
always
weird
sounds better, I think, the older stuff.
definitely the older stuff because I like the
Yeah,
way
that's
they,
what I was thinking. It's just because the way I think it's just the way it's recorded and things. There's less of the digital stuff. It sounds a lot better, I think.
yeah, and it's just I don't know. I really believe in less is more for
Yeah,
anything in life. And I just love it how those records just sound live, even if they're not recorded live, and how you're so close to the instruments in your headphones or when you're listening to it. So sometimes I feel nowadays we're overcomplicating it
definitely. You
all.
don't really get. All I like about older records, you get songs that had like still had mistakes in it. You don't really
Yeah.
get that anymore because everything's like done to perfection.
Yeah, it's funny because actually, I'm also a massive fan of Linda Ronstadt, and she has said that actually about one of her older albums. That now listening back to it, she's like, "Oh, I wish I had the technology of nowadays to like fix it." While I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I
Yeah, leave
love
it as
those
it
little
is.
like cracks in your voice and maybe a chord that went wrong or a harmony that went a bit like the other way. I just love that. I feel." Kind of what I'm trying. Maybe that's why I'm also or always writing from a very honest perspective because I would love, especially in this day and age with social media, I love to normalize imperfection a little bit more.
Yeah, defo.
Yeah. And I think that's why I love those albums because they're not perfect. And I don't really believe in the concept of perfect, which is funny because whenever I listen to so basically to make a song you must know this you write the thing go to a producer then you have a mixing engineer who works on it then a mastering engineer and every time when these guys are sending me their first mixes 9 out of 10 times I don't hear the difference. That's because I need to train my ear more, so that's on me, that's on me. But also I'm like, yeah, we can polish it till it's like so shiny that it's just like blinding me. But I don't mind if it's actually a bit scuffy or has a few scratches on it
Yeah, it
because
makes it sound.
that's
I
what
think it
makes.
makes it sound better like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny, I might actually incorporate that in the next few singles a little bit more to see how that works and how my audience will react to it. Because again, I'm so big on let's showcase imperfections rather than just a perfect like picture. I try to do it on my social media as well, but it's tricky with like the whole algorithm and stuff. It doesn't really
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah. I
when
can
you're
never get my head around social media. I'm just
no,
posting and
it's
hoping for the best.
yeah, well, especially on TikTok, that's just literally just throw something in the black hole and then see what happens. Because yeah,
Yeah.
really.
Uh, is there any dream sort of collaborations people you'd love to work with if you get to that next
Uh,
level?
well, that's the thing. Because I love all these older bands, they all have died or they're about to die or whatever. But if it doesn't matter if they're dead or alive, I would definitely say, well, of course, Fleetwood Mac or Stevie Nicks. I would love to work with Elton John. I think that would be really interesting, especially after seeing that
Yeah,
documentary about how he made that album with Brandy Carlisle. I would love to work with Brandy Carlisle because I think she's an amazing producer and writer. The obvious I would say is Casey Musgraves because she's such like a big like idol of mine. But if I really look at songwriting wise, I would say Brandy Carlisle and Joni Mitchell.
Yeah, what's next for you then?
So actually, yeah, so we what is it? The EP came out in May. Then we did like a summer tour with it in the UK and in the Netherlands. We played Pub in the Park a couple of weeks ago in St. Albans, which was a major highlight for me, festival show wise, because it's the biggest festival I've played so far. We're about to go on like a mini autumn tour where we're gonna do some special shows in October. They're gonna be mainly in London because I didn't really touch on London, only in the beginning of my tour this summer. But they're going to be very special shows. So like the one that we have on the 15th of October is going to be a show and a clothing swap. I'm super into sustainability and secondhand fashion. So there will be a clothing swap and a live music event. And then we're gonna do the week after a show for the Crisis UK charity at one of their charity shops. And then the week after, we're doing a show with this amazing event called Korak. And it's like a live podcast almost and a show in one, where it's all about your origin story and playing with their house band and stuff. It will be a funky one. So yeah, we got those shows. Yeah, last week released my single Fine, and then in October I will be releasing a new song which is called Totally Honest. And then last year I released a Christmas country cover of a U2 song. It's a
Which you do
mouthful.
song?
Song for Someone.
Ah, it's a great song. I love that song.
Yeah, me too. And for some reason, I always felt that it was a great Christmas song. And then we had the producer I worked with in Newcastle and I had some hours left in the sessions that we booked. And she was like, "What do we want to do?" And I was like, "Well, I always had the feeling that that song could be a great Christmas song." So I released it last year, but I feel for Christmas, you rather, well, you can release something new, but it has to be a Christmas song then, because otherwise it won't go anywhere. Because basically, as soon as it's the 1st of November, everyone wants to listen to Christmas music.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna promote that, maybe make some new like footage of it, maybe some live sessions. I haven't figured that out yet, but we're definitely gonna do something special with it. And then in the meantime, just working on new stuff for next year. And then hopefully we can hit some festivals next year. That's the big plan for next year, to do more UK festivals because we only played one, which is Pub in the Park this year. So I would love to do that. And then maybe start thinking about a new EP maybe next year around this time. I can't think about that yet because I have to tell you, it's almost like giving birth to a child. It's
Yeah, that
it's it's
is.
so much time, and I really underestimated that, to be honest. It was so much time, and I don't mind the effort, don't mind the time, because it was a beautiful project, and I met so many cool collaborators on the way that I'm still working with today. So that's really exciting. But yeah, I definitely need to think about like a vision and not just lyric wise, but also sound wise. But that's what I'm gonna explore in the next few months. So we'll see. We'll
Ah,
see.
cool. Busy, busy, busy few months ahead then.
Yeah, I can't wait for like the start of next year because we're gonna try to like take it a little bit easier on I love to play live, so I'm always like, let's play there, let's play there. And I'm always emailing people to ask if I can play with them. But I think it will be good to maybe tone down on the shows and maybe focus on other stuff. Because as an independent artist, you have so many things that you need to think of. So I think it will be good for me to maybe take it easy on some parts of the job.
Ah, cool. Well, that's it really. That was like the gist of it. That was pretty much the chat.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It was fun to chat to you.